Welcome everybody to this webinar organized under the GLITSS initiative. So I'm glad to have here Umberto Di Maggio and Francesca Forno, and I leave them the floor to introduce and to discuss the topic of this webinar. So Professor Di Maggio, the floor is yours.
Thank you, good to see you. Thank you all for being here. First of all, thank you to the GLITSS project. Globalization, illicit trade, sustainability, and security. No, this is the acronym. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you to the Professor Giumelli, who is the leading of the project. And thank you to Professor Cannapelle, who's leading the working group 3. This is a big opportunity for us in order to discuss about critical consumption and illicit trade. Today, I'm very pleased to introduce our guest, Professor Forno, Francesca Forno, from University of Trento. It is a friend of mine. She's a sociologist like me. Her research interests are focused on collective action, social movements, new forms and spheres of citizen participation, sociology of environment, and so on. This morning, we will discuss about critical consumption, about pizzo. Pizzo that is a form of extortion, mafia extortion. We will discuss about citizens' initiatives here in Italy and beyond. And we talk about the role of citizen in order to fight this kind of economical activities. So, the question is for you, dear Francesco. Dear Francesca, can this experience of critical consumption be used in order to counter illicit trade? Because the GLITSS project has these keywords, the illicit trade, in order to counter the illicit trade. This webinar ends at 1 hour from now. Your presentation, if I understand, it's about 40 minutes, no? We have 10 minutes at the end for questions, no? So, Francesca, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much to all of you. This is also for me a fantastic opportunity. And what I'm going to present is probably my favorite research that I did. And in this research, during this research, I met Umberto, and since then, I mean, we haven't lost trace among each other. It was an opportunity, incredible opportunity for me to do this research in Palermo. I went to Palermo for the first time to do this research with Carina Gunnarsson. Carina Gunnarsson is my colleague, Swedish colleague. Together, we were able to win a big grant from the Swedish Research Agency to conduct a very peculiar and very difficult research. I will take you inside this journey that I did, and actually I won't be able to answer to the question that Umberto posed us and me, in particularly at the very beginning when he presented me. But I hope we will be able to reply, to answer this question together after my presentation. Well, it was really a coincidence for me to start looking at this experience that is called Addio Pizzo. It's a social movement organization who is fighting the pizzo, a kind of mafia taxation to control the territory. It was a kind of coincidence, basically. I was at the time, I'm talking about almost 10 years ago, I was researching how citizens were actually, social movement actually were asking citizens to change their repertoire of citizen engagement in politics. Social movement started to call us in our role of consumer in order to affect how, for example, industry is producing good, but also to reestablish a connection between us as consumer and the territory around us. So I was studying this phenomena of shifting repertoire of action, and it was at the beginning of 2000, let's say, the new century. And I learned how to use a program that was able to find the links, hyperlinks, the digital links between websites of social movement organization. And I was actually looking at fair trade organization, how they were connected with other type of organization. I mean, my idea was that also the peace movement was trying to ask us as citizens to use our power, our shopping power to require peace, for example. And actually, I used this program that the name is Issue Crawler, is still operating in the web, and to find actually hyperlinks that were linking fair trade organization, that was what I was studying at that time, to other type of organization. My hypothesis was that social movement organizations were linking each other through repertoire of action. So the way they linked each other was establish a new kind of ecosystem of fair trade, but not link it just to link the northern consumer to the southern producer, no? But more in general. And actually, this program gave me, as a result, something special, an anti-racket organization was linked to this ecosystem, digital ecosystem. So I presented this initial finding, to a conference in, I think that was in Uppsala, I'm not sure about that, but anyway, it was in Sweden. And actually the chair of the conference, they were like, well, this is very interesting finding. What is an anti-mafia movement organization linked to fair trade organization? And so they asked me for a book that was published afterwards on innovative practices, social movement practices, to go to Palermo and to start this journey. And this is what I will describe you now here. So this is also to show you how sometimes are just coincidence that drive us as a scholar to discover something new. And I was actually the first scholar who started to study this organization. At the time, I was working at the University of Bergamo, and it was a little bit strange that a person from the north of Italy came to the south in order to give relevance, because this is also what is important. I mean, to search, and in order to take it, I mean, to actually to show how these initiatives can be very powerful. And they have been, obviously they didn't change, they didn't fight the mafia. I mean, mafia is still there, but as you will see, they had a very innovative initiatives that actually help also to increase the number of reports against the pizza. So I have prepared a presentation also in order to stay on time, and I will go through it and then we can open the floor. So let me do it on full screen. I should be able. Yes. So thank you again for this invitation. So this is my outline. I have already said something, so this will allow me to go a little bit faster on the different issue I want to cover. So I will introduce, but I have already introduced a little bit the topic and the research. Then I will concentrate my attention and your attention of the research question, because every research has some research questions that are very clear. I haven't studied the mafia movement as a whole, but a specific initiative. I would like also to introduce my methodology and the data that I collected and that I will use in order to actually understand how Adio Pizzo mobilization developed along the time. Adio-pizzo is important. Adio-pizzo is this year actually is a birthday, Adio-pizzo birthday party. I mean, because it started to be to operate in 2004. So is 20 years long. That is something exceptional. I mean, it's very important. I mean, that a social movement organization lasts so long. It is obviously not the only one organization that is using critical consumerism, critical consumption to as a way to counterbalance the mafia, and the pizzo especially. There are other organizations like Liberterra that you might have heard about it. But what I would like to concentrate using social movement theoretical instrument, I would like to give you some idea of how the mobilization started. I will use McAdam, a very important scholar in social movement studies, to understand how the mobilization developed, how activists identify their strategy of action, how they were managing, how they managed to create a social organization based. Then I will show you some maps that we have created in order to understand the diffusion. That it was very interesting for us because this is it follows a mechanism and a process that is very much online with the diffusion of innovation of Rogers, the important theory of how innovation diffuse. And then I will focus on outcome, and then I will conclude, and I hope we will can start a discussion between us. So I have already told you that, especially at the turn of the new century, the 2000, social movement organization has started to call us as a citizen to use what is in the literature is called our shopping bag power. So I guess you are aware that social movement have started to call people not just in the street in order to protest against government decision, but they have started to call us as a citizen to act as our wallet power, I mean, with our money power. I think that, I guess you are from different cities and towns, and you might recognize that there is a lot of attention. I mean, at the turn of the century, for example, we had a very big spread of fair trade shops. But there are also local markets that are farmers market that are actually popping out in many towns, and or specialized shops that are actually selling something that is without, for example, the exploitation of labor, and reconnect consumer to producer. And as I told you at the very beginning, I mean, the story, the coincidence, the serendipity that took me to this to study this organization, Adio-pizzo, was actually that I started to notice that also an anti-mafia organization was using political consumerism as a tactic of action. What is political consumerism? Because it is a topic that I've been studying for a long time, and maybe is new for some of you. This is a definition of Michel Di Micheletti, that is also an editor of the book I was telling you before, that pushed me to Palermo, that sent me to Palermo to study this interesting case study. Critical consumption refers, I'm reading this, to the purchase of goods and services based not only on price and product. When we go to the supermarket, we actually choose thinking about quality and price. But political consumerism is also thinking, political consumers are also thinking at the behavior of producer and the production methods. No? For example, if they respect environmental sustainability, workers' rights, human rights. This form of citizen participation stresses, as Micheletti says, the importance of individual responsibility for the common good by recognizing a fundamental part of the production process in the very act of consuming. So as consumer, we have responsibility, said Micheletti. I mean, because we can see, consumer can see the beginning or the end of the, for example, the food chain or the production chain. So what was interesting about that? That using issue crawler, I founded this little organization. At the time was very little. I mean, linking to this fair trade organization, biggest fair trade organization. And actually, what is noticed that there was a transfer of practice that obviously for people who study social movement is something very interesting, no? How practice move from one setting to the other. And critical consumption indeed has entered the anti-mafia movement repertoire of action, providing to be a particularly effective strategy because it has enlisted the participation of certain social actors traditionally reluctant to take collective action against the mafia. What actually Agiopizzo did, they use it. It used it as an organization, the repertoire, I mean, the political consumerism repertoire of action in order to build a coalition of shopkeepers that actually were refusing and protecting themselves, linking to one another, refusing to pay the tax to the mafia. I mean, the pizzo, what Umberto has explained in the beginning. So that the case was clearly a very interesting case of tactic transfer, but we needed to learn it more, how it started, what was the rationality of the actors involved, how he diffused, how actually it won. Because if we think about outcome of this mobilization, the outcome that actually it helped shopkeepers to unite. We had case decades before of shopkeepers or entrepreneur like Libero Grassi who refused to pay the pizza of the mafia, and he went to the television to denounce this problem, and actually he was killed because he was left alone. So actually being able to unite some efforts, local efforts, it was very important, and this is already an outcome that was achieved. But I wanted to know how was political consumerism introduced in the fight against the mafia? How and through which means was the initiative organized? And how it diffused? If you use it, for example, indirect communication or direct communication. And for doing this, because I didn't do alone all this research. I mean, I was working, as I said, with this Swedish scholar, Carina Gunnarsson. We look at the origin of mobilization, the strategy of identification, the creation of social base, and the diffusion. We actually draw on McAdam and his collaborator, important book that he wrote in 2001. There is also an article that is summarizing what I'm saying that I publish in the International Journal Consumer Studies. You can assess. I mean, the article had this title that identified the main mechanism, bridging together scattered and localized actors, no? Because I mean, if we think consumers are scatterers, we are scatterers. I mean, especially Agiopizzo also enjoy a lot of, could count a lot of support from tourists coming to Palermo. So this is an article that summarizes what I will say. I will tell in the last minutes that are left. And this, anyway, is the methodology we used. Data for the analysis that I will tell you the analysis was based on interviews with activists, participant observation. I lived in Palermo for quite a long time to collect this data. Media analysis, I will show you a little bit, and we were able to construct a unique data set reporting the answer given to a structured questionnaire with more than 70 questions that we were able to collect from 277 shopkeepers that were involved in this mobilization. So we were walking through Palermo street to collect all these findings. It was incredible. We spent months and months in order to collect all this data. Well, let's go into the Agiopizzo's mobilization. These are some images that I took from the internet in order to give you the powerful initiatives that this group of initialists few people, few students, a few young people that were just graduated or from the university or were graduating at the time. This was in the center is the logo that the sticker that the shopkeeper that have joined the organization, the movement, place on the window shopping. And if you go to Palermo, this is very evident, and this sticker was also a very powerful way to sign in the street where shopkeepers adhering to Adio Pizzo were located. This was also here on the top left a very important sticker that actually with what these people, the first movers, let's say, have initiated this battle, and I will tell you a little bit more in a little while. Okay, origin of mobilization, because then when we see a movement, we said, okay, very nice, but how did it start? So here, obviously, as a scholar, we go in the field with some theoretical glasses that help us to see something that otherwise it is not possible to see. And here, as I said, I draw a lot on the work of Doug McAdam. He's a very prominent scholar on social movement. McAdam says that collective action might spring from different mechanisms, might spring from catalyst events. I don't know, something happening, and then you have a reaction from people. Or rather, it can start from a number of interactive conversations through which people share meanings and start to build collective identity, and also to understand which practice to use in order to engage other people. So this means that sometimes mobilization starts from local friendship and kindship ties that are obviously very important for collective action. Also to go beyond, to overcome the free rider, the famous free rider problem. No? I mean, taking collective action is not that easy if you are alone. I mean, if you think that you will be alone. And actually, to build this identity, common identity, you need also to meet people. And as I will say later, I mean, to meet people, to establish relationship offline. Because if we think about recent mobilization that have occurred mainly online, they are very short-lived, because actually meeting people physically, it means that you really establish a kind of tie that is very important to build a collective action. In fact, with a series of interviews that actually opened me the field with activists, I have realized that unlike past anti-mafia mobilization, Adio Pizzo did not emerge as a consequence of specific external event, prompting reaction, but rather through conversation among group of friends. I mean, probably we all know that Palermo, especially immediately after the kill of Falcone and Borsellino, reacted. I mean, there were a lot of people. I mean, Umberto knows the story much more than me. I mean, crowd in the street protesting against the mafia, no? But that was exactly an example of mobilization prompted by an external event, external or internal, but anyway, a strong event. Instead, the Adio Pizzo mobilization started not for something that had happened, actually, but from this conversation. Actually, what I learned while interviewing people is actually that the first activists that this is what they recounted to me, they were thinking of opening a fair trade shop. This is very important because fair trade obviously is based on political consumerism, on critical consumption. So they had this mechanism in mind. Many of them, they also participated in the global justice movement a little bit before. So they had this idea of that actually political consumerism, critical consumerism could be something to mobilize through which mobilize citizens. So they actually identified from the very beginning critical consumption as they tactical actor. We have to say that market-based action were already well known at the time, no? So it was the link between, I mean, if we think it's not that easy to think that to adapt such a specific repertoire of action to such a local problem. So they really did something, they really invented something very important, very powerful. Also because they were looking at political consumerism, critical consumption, were actually able to mobilize people. So it was an important strategy to mobilize, remobilize people. And how they did it? Well, actually, the organization started in 2004, the 29th of June. Actually, the story goes as in this way. I mean, people, citizens of Palermo, woke up with the city with the tapestry of this sticker around. They are still visible in some area of Palermo that were said a whole population replaced the pizzo is a population without dignity. No. I mean, they did this kind of action very visible in the town, and actually they were able actually to receive a lot of media attention for this action. The sentence was very important because it actually didn't accuse anybody. It contained actually a very clear indication, but it was also a kind of a positive frame because it's not accusing somebody. It's very difficult in this context to accuse somebody. But actually, this idea to use your shopping back power, I mean, to tell to everybody to react was very important. Although it is a rather traditional form of action, the choice of actually activists to use a positive frame that did not refer to anybody, anyone in particular, but was addressed to everyone, made the message easier to be reported by the media and journals. So I think that this is also very interesting because we sometimes think that social movement organizations are irrational actors. Instead, social movement organizations are very rational. They really wait very much the step they have to take to diffuse, to enlarge, to call into action other people. Then they started to think about how to create a social base. And it was important also this. First of all, they started to collect signature by people actually that were interested in use political consumerism, critical consumption in order to support shopkeepers that were refused to pay the pizzo to the mafia. So they started from the consumer. I mean, from the citizen in the role of consumer. And this actually led them to collect 3,500 signatures that were all published name by name. So they were not just one person, Libero Grassi, but 3,500 signatures that were published in the Giornale di Sicilia, important local newspaper in 2005. And then what they started with this critical mass, they started to go to collect interest from shopkeepers, and they published a guide. A guide for the critical consumer, the anti-racket critical consumer. So people could actually have a look to this booklet, small booklet, in order to use their shopping back power to support people that were refused to pay the pizza. This is the diffusion. So what we did with Carina Gunnarsson, we collect all this data. We actually build maps in order to study the diffusion processes that this expansion of subscribers, basically, to this mobilization, where how actually the protest, because it's actually a protest, diffuse. And the innovative form of action and the actor's ability to frame, as I said before, the action in a way that could resonate among wider sectors of society and movement organization help activist action to pass the media gate, allowing the movement to build a new virtual and localized ties. So this is very important because actually in the ground, in the field, locally, I mean, there were real people making connection, real connection, body connection among each other. But on the other side, there were very experts, these young people, to use new technology in order to connect with everybody, basically, in the world. No? And actually, Adio Pizzo started to receive a lot of attention, and the Pizzo issue started to receive a lot of attention through this mobilization. Nobody were talking, nobody were writing about the Pizzo in newspaper. I will show you one of our findings. This is clearly showing that the more the mobilization spread, the more newspaper talk about this issue, the Pizzo that was covered. I mean, nobody was talking about that. This is also the number of shopkeepers and entrepreneurs that joined the campaign. You see that I have quite an old data. Actually, this research would need to be updated. But still, Adio Pizzo is still there and also has multiplied a lot of their repertoire of action. For example, they have now a travel agency, Adio Pizzo Travel, who works quite well. I did a tour, an Adio Pizzo tour 1 month ago. Last time that I was in Palermo, I never did it before, but I did it 1 month ago. And it's quite interesting because you actually join these initiatives that has also created jobs because they have a travel agency that is functioning. And you are able to see Palermo from a different angles and also to learn, although I quite into this literature, in this story, I learned quite a lot through this tour. And so this is actually the trend that it's follow. I mean, this kind of spreading this map is actually representing the geolocalization of this trend. And of course, I mean, the story is very in line with the diffusion of innovation theory developed quite a long time ago by Rogers. Of course, I mean, through the interviews, just think about that we collected the data from shopkeepers, detailed data from shopkeepers, so we could analyze the characteristic of the first joiner, of the late adopter, of the people not adopter, no? And so I think that the theory of Rogers is very interesting and also very in line with the theory of social movement diffusion. So obviously, we had here innovators. Innovators were this group of young people, now not so young anymore, but at the time they were. Obviously, there were people that were kind of used to new technology, to new repertoire of action. They were innovative. And they had actually started the initiative in a very interesting and innovative way. No? So the Attacchini had the resource and imagination to understand the potential of fair trade, of critical consumption. Then there were the early risers. The early risers are usually the first one who gets into the network, into the mobilization. They didn't invent, these early risers don't invent the tactic, the new tactic, but actually they were the closer. So, for example, in the analysis of the characteristic of the shopkeepers that first joined the movement, we noticed that there were a lot of associations. I mean, there were very little shops. So, I mean, they had some characteristics that were kind of reducing their, I mean, actually not reducing the list, their commitment was higher, because this is also important. I mean, what makes people to overcome the free rider problem? No, I mean, Marco Orsum long time ago said that collective action is very unlikely to happen because it's better for people, for individual people, not to move rather than to move, because If you don't move, but other move, if other fail, you haven't moved. If other win, you have win with the effort of others. So it's irrational somehow to take a movement, no? But actually what we learn from our analysis, because we had the date where they joined the movement, the organization, we discovered that they were the people who joined, they had some special characteristic as shopkeepers. Some one of them, they were association, not businesses. Some of them, they were businesses, but mainly the first with whom they started to promote the campaign were organization or association, but very high in motivation. Then there are the middle adopter and the late adopter, no? So people that they say, I mean, they break the silence, and actually people little by little start to join, no? Another, of course, they never join. This is something that I think that can give you us the idea of outcome. What we learn from the interview, just think about that I'm not Sicilian, and of course Carina Gunnarsson is not. So we learn this through our field work. And but we also check what interviewees were telling to us through data collection, systematic data collection. So here we have systematically collected data from Giornale di Sicilia about the pizzo. No? We work with keywords. And we notice, for example, that the number of articles actually reporting, talking about the pizzo issue was actually following the mobilization. If you see now in 2006, we had an increased number of joiners that was followed by an increase of number of newspaper articles talking about the pizzo issue, because there were no one before, very little, no? So I think that one of the visible outcome of the mobilization was actually opening up the discussion about racket. Just a few words about the conclusion, and also yesterday when I was finalizing my talk, I was thinking also what we can take from this single case study. What you can take back home from this single case study. So I have another slide, but this is almost the end of my presentation. So my conclusion, the new strategy identified by Pizzo proved particularly effective for two reasons. Through political consumerism, critical consumption, Pizzo aligned itself with the action of other rapidly growing concern about critical consumption. The novelty of the form of action utilized facilitated Pizzo messages and activities being reported by the media. I mean, the media started to sympathize because they were very able not to accuse anyone, but actually to ask people to mobilize. They spread across various sectors. This is also very important, of actors, the general public, organizations, shopkeepers, entrepreneurs, professionals, etc., of new civic repertoire occurred mainly through direct and not only communication networks. So what I learned from this mobilization that can be important to build other type of organization. First of all, this intersection of different actors was very important. Anti-social movement just mobilize people that have similar background. Here, instead, we had mobilization of general public, consumer, tourist, organizations, shopkeeper, entrepreneur, professional, no? And on the other side, this mix of direct and online network. If I think about recent mobilization, as I said already before, that occur mainly online, they are really fluctuant. I mean, they are not stable, because I think that the importance of Pizzo, but other anti-mafia, new wave of anti-mafia movement, is that they created really real link. They put their body into the mobilization. So what is the take the takeaways from these case studies. I mean, from which we can also think about, start the debate and the Q&A session. Well, here, yesterday I was thinking that I always love this Margaret Mead sentence. Margaret Mead is an anthropologist, very important. She said that never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has, especially now that we are in a moment of little participation. I mean, at least in Italy, I don't know in your country what is happening, but people, very low number of people, I mean, percentage of people go to the pool, for example. So, especially after COVID, we have seen as social movement scholars that people are more reluctant to take action. So, and I think that this Margaret Mead and the example of Adio Pizzo, the case study of Adio Pizzo, says that even a small number of people, a small group of people can actually have an impact. Then another things that can be a takeaway from this case study, I think that is successful movement often employ incremental radicalism, gradually pushing boundaries for change. This is also something that I believe is important. Successful movement usually employ this idea of radical incrementalism or incremental radicalism. They want to change, but they know that they have to do little by little. Explosion of dissent usually is also short-lived. So this was what I learned from Adio Pizzo. Little by little, I mean, try to involve different strata of population of the population. And again, mobilization is sustained when it unites diverse sector of the population. This is also something that if I compare the Adio Pizzo mobilization with other social movement organizations that I'm looking that are the use political consumerism, critical consumption, I can see that they are more homogeneous. Like, for example, we have in Italy, but everywhere as well, these community-supported agriculture. In Italy, we have the solidarity purchasing group that are attracting mainly only middle classes. Instead, the Adio Pizzo mobilization is interesting because actually we're able to mobilize different sectors of society. And that with this, I can stop here. And thank you very much for your attention. I hope that at least I was able to give you the enthusiasm and the really nice experience that I did while living in Palermo and collecting this data and searching for such an interesting case study. Thank you.
Many thanks, Francesca. Thank you for your brilliant and passionate presentation. Now it's time for the questions.
Hello, Francesca. I have a question for you. Thank you very much first for this presentation. It was very interesting. And I have a question not so much from the perspective of the people in this movement, but from the other side. Was there any reaction from the mafia? And if any reaction, how it has impacted this movement?
Well, this is, I mean, this is the common question that I received also a long time ago, so when I was into the field. Actually, what the activists themselves, they told me that they were actually protected by the visibility that media, but also us as scholars. For example, in the little booklet that they published, I asked them if I could use their name. And they say, yes, use please, because this is actually protecting us. No, so the fact that they were there with their faces, I mean, also because the mafia, but again, I mean, but he's much more expert than me. But actually, when the mafia killed Falcone Borsellino, it was something that started a reaction from the public very strong. So they were protecting themselves through visibility. As far as I know, they didn't have any strong reaction. On the contrary, they found out that the mafiosi, I mean, people who were collecting the pizza were trying to avoid the shops that had this sign on their shopping windows because they knew that they were part of this organization. So, but maybe also Umberto can say something since he is living at least in the town. But this is what the activist told me during the interview, because I had the same question that you had.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francesca. Anyone?
I have a question for Francesca. Thank you for presentation. Thank you all again to Umberto for setting up this webinar, which is very, very interesting. There is a sort of cycle in the life of a social movement. And one of the challenges to keep the pace and to keep the enthusiasm at the same level that trigger this social movement. So since it's been at least more or less 20 years that this movement is still living and prospering, my question is, what is the say elements that allows this movement to regenerate and to keep the pace that triggered the reaction at the beginning?
Well, I haven't followed so in detail the organization as I did until 10 years ago. No, less than 10 years ago. But anyway, it's a quite long time. But obviously, since I put so much effort in this research, I kept an eye on the movement cycle, as you said. What I think that there was the capacity is to diversify. I remember when I was teaching in Bergamo, still teaching in Bergamo, there were a lot of schools traveling through Adio Pizzo travel. And this actually is quite an interesting activity that they develop immediately after I think that they receipt is actually that they were able to self-sponsor themselves, to provide resources. This cycle, you said, is common in social movement organization because it is difficult to keep on with collective action because it's a lot of efforts. It is also a lot of effort to maintain resources, also economic resources, because it's not easy. I mean, so they have somehow professionalized, but in a way that was, in my opinion, very clever, keeping this enthusiasm. And also the work with school was quite significant. The travel agency is today employing a good number of people. Of course, they haven't fight the mafia, I mean, but still, they are informing. There is a different way to traveling, and plus political consumerism, critical consumption is very interesting because while connecting is also moving resources. So I know that if I want to do a tourist tour, I can do, and I will know that my money will be spent to support the organization. So I will do a fantastic tour because, believe me, I think that is a very good quality. You learn a lot. But on the other side, you are compromising. You are reaching two goals, enjoying, but also supporting with a small efforts, I would say. So diversification is probably one of the reasons. Of course, they are not in the news as they were before because novelty is something that is short-lived, no? But they are still there.
Thank you.
A question, Francesca. Let's remain in the field of communication. Okay, we spoke about the crucial role of communication in order to spread the movement, no, and to allow the spread of the movement in the city. And when we talk about communication, we talk about citizens, no? And if we try to speak about marketing, that maybe is more related to the strategies of the entrepreneurs. It's a kind of communication, no? Or it's a part of communication.
Mm.
So can you stress this argument? Because we have in front a lot of students of our course in communication and digital marketing.
Mm.
So it's a crucial argument for us.
Well, is it clear? Clearly, a good example as a critical marketing, this one, no? I would say that actually this first initiative, the sticker, is an action of guerrilla marketing because they started, of course, they didn't have a logo at the time because it was level up, but it is clearly a big event, a big action of guerrilla marketing. So I think that the connection is clearly there, Umberto. You're right, and I think that also marketing theory can help to reply with what Stefano was asking. I mean, the success, how they were able to maintain the success. No? So it is clearly an angle through which we can observe. Is it an example, a clear example of social communication, social marketing, I would say. But again, I mean, it is important that this action, to understand that this action had success because anyway, it happened in a given period of time where Addio Pizzo initiatives could resound within a much larger social movement field. So, but I think that this is also constant. I'm not a marketing scholar, but this is also constant with the marketing literature. I mean, how ideas or advertisement diffuse, flew, or are able to capture clients is actually because they are able to connect and resound. I mean, they sounded something that people could understand because political consumerism was already diffuse, at least within a certain type social classes of people, no? Middle classes. So I think that that could be an angle through which to read this mobilization and also its success, because at the end, it is a story of success.
Thank you, Francesca. I think that the time is over, or not? Yeah, so that's all. I'm proud about this morning together. I'm proud because this is an opportunity to spread worldwide another image of my land. I'm Sicilian, and often when people think about Sicily, think about the land of mafia. No, you know, good father. No, I say that we are the land of anti-mafia because we are genetically against mafia and not on the contrary. So thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Professor Cannepala, for this opportunity. Thank you, Professor Giumelli. Thank you to GLITSS project, to the organizer. I think that it was an opportunity to stay together. See you around. Keep in touch.
Thank you. Thank you also from my side. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. And all the recording will be available on the GLITSS website if someone missed the webinar, so everybody can get access online to this interesting webinar that Francesca and Umberto promoted today. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. See you.
Goodbye.
Bye. Ciao.
Bye-bye.